Hi, everyone. This is Esateys.
And this is Rafael. And thanks for being here for our new podcast, Relationships Done Differently. Everyday Strategies for Happiness.
So let's get real here, because we're really real, we're really blunt, and we're really direct.
And we like to have fun.
We do, but the bottom line is that we all really want to be happy. I have coached literally thousands of people. And what I've learned is that no matter what's going on in their life, they just want to get it fixed so they can feel good inside, so they can feel happy. And most people think that relationship is going to be the answer. And if I have an awesome relationship, then everything is going to be really terrific. Let me tell you, it's not exactly the way it works. Relationships are phenomenal. And what I call them is personal development on steroids, because what happens is that when you're with a relationship, they mirror things too. We'll talk about mirroring in our podcast there. But what is important about that is that they help us see the parts of ourselves that we really don't want to see.
And there are a lot of them.
It depends, but yeah.
But you didn't hear us say that.
It depends on who you are. But we're speaking from experience over here. So relationship is like a gateway to happiness. And sometimes it is, really, really happy. But if you have an awareness about what's going on in relationship, then what happens is instead of being a person who is blaming and saying he did that to me or she did that to me, what happens is you become completely responsible internally and you learn about the way the mind works. You learn how the personality is going through. And we're going to speak about so many of these things. And if you understand relationships, then you will really, really love relationships most of the time. Sometimes occasionally still shows up like, they're doing something, but it is something that is going to make something very, very powerful. Now, also, please understand that right now I've been speaking about, personal relationships. Relationships are more than that. Do you want to tell them about all the different kinds of relationships, or you want me to keep chatting?
Well, I know you're a good chatter. There are a lot of different relationships that we have. And when I first started doing this work with Esateys, and I'll talk a little more about that later too, I just always thought of relationships, as most people do, is with a significant other. I want to have a relationship with someone. I want to have someone to keep me company. I don't want to be lonely. And the myriad of reasons that people actually think they want to be in a relationship. But the truth is, we have a relationship with many other things. We have a relationship with our body, with our environment, with our children. Oh, I'm getting there. With our money, and that's a big one, especially for people like me. So the really cool thing about the relationship work that we do, and we're going to be talking about on this podcast, is that every principle that we will talk about applies to every one of these relationships and a whole bunch of other relationships that I haven't even mentioned. It's the underlying premise to relationships, the underlying laws, so to speak, or the truths of relationship apply to everything. So I always say, master your relationships and you'll master your life.
That's a really true statement too. And as long as you are viewing relationships as an opportunity to become a happier person, to really learn who you are and what you're doing here and what all of life is about, then relationships are so important. They're really key. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself.
Before you do that, you mentioned, sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. Before you do that, will you talk a little more about relationships being personal development on steroids? You went through that fast. I think that's a point worth discussing.
Okay. I don't want to scare you guys. But
sit down and put on your helmet.
Yeah, just relax here. One of the things that that's important about relationships and utilizing them as personal development. And I know that we're taking all the romanticism out of it and all that kind of stuff right now. It's not what we really mean to do. It's really fun to have relationships be very romantic and go through all of these things that we go through when we meet someone, but it's also very important from my viewpoint, from our viewpoint, that you stay aware of what's really going on in that time. So the more you know yourself, the more awareness you have about yourself and what you're really looking for under the covers, so to speak, no pun intended, is that you are looking and seeking to find what it is that you really want in your core. And that is happiness. That is peace. That's a sense of being loved and lovable. People in general, across the board, in varying degrees, really do not get or feel loved and lovable. They don't get that they're lovable. There's so much self talk going on. There's so much self-denigration. It's really very sad sometimes to hear how people speak to themselves. And if you're not sure, just take a listen sometime when you're really observing how people are being with themselves. They go, oh, I really screwed that up, or I could never have that happen, or whatever it is. It's a lot of things. And you know what's really interesting about that is that when we are speaking to ourselves that way, we're speaking to our children that way. And we're speaking to other people many times. And if we aren't speaking it out loud, we're thinking it. And see, all of these thought processes, they have an effect on the way we feel, because every thought has a certain attitude or energy or frequency to it. And we know that when we are feeling really good and our attitude is high and we're really feeling in the zone, so to speak, that everything in the world looks so very different. And yet, when we are feeling kind of crummy, kind of iffy, depressed, and we're self-denigrating, and those kinds of things create a heaviness and a weight in our chest, in our bodies, and we start seeing life through glasses, through the lenses of, I might as well go eat worms because I'm no good. Nothing I do is any good. Nothing is going to work. Nothing really has ever worked. And we start going down this spiral. And yet the same thing can happen, but in the other direction, when we start living in a state of gratitude, when we start looking at things as we really would love them to be, and perhaps they already are, but we spend time like writing in a gratitude journal, for example, something that seemingly is very simple, but what it does is it changes that whole frequency, happy zone place. And it's very exciting because you have the ability. This is one of the things we will talk about in probably every episode, is that you have the ability to live life the way you would like to live it. You have and deserve the right to live the life that you love living. And I meet very, very few people who live in that, with that realm of thought processing.
And the only way that you can get there is to understand those individual things or issues or programs that you have about yourself, and that guaranteed will come up through relationships. I've been in a couple of relationships. This is, just truth be known, my third marriage, and this is the one, but I'm glad we're here now. And I will tell you, they all started great, and then things happened. And that's the kind of thing that we're going to be talking about in this program, and why we call it Relationships Done Different. The lessons, the self-growth we can get from relationships is huge. And sometimes I get that, and sometimes she'll say, I don't get it.
Well, sometimes it's easy to look at, and sometimes it isn't easy to look at.
That's for sure.
We don't like to look at those parts of ourselves that we judge, usually very severely. And because of that, we have a tendency to get very defensive and very judgmental on the other person, which is really just a way that we are projecting our own discomfort on someone else so we don't have to look at it. But that doesn't change what is. So the more awake, the more aware, the more connected you are to what you think, what you feel, what you say, the more astutely you will be able to live your life, and the more profoundly you will be able to see relationship as a true gift that it is. But it takes a learning, it does. And that's why we say relationships done different, is because we're not going to tell you how to dress and all that kind of stuff to go, meet somebody. We're going to tell you that when you are working with yourself and you have your act together, so to speak, you will attract the person that is important for you to spend your next phase of life with. And if you're already in a relationship, what's very powerful is it's not too late, because growth, self-development is a continuous experience. And because of that, when you start working on yourself, your relationship will become different. It'll become very clear about what you personally need to do that will make a difference in your relationship. And it will make a difference in the relationship with yourself first, and then other people in your life after that.
And it's pretty amazing how, when you make that first shift in yourself, how others, your partner, for example, really, really change without even knowing it. But we'll get into that too. So we were just going to have an introduction for this program to tell you about the kind of things that we're going to be talking about and what we're going to be doing. But I could see we can't keep on topic. So we're going to go right back to Esateys. Tell us about yourself so people know who you are.
Okay, so how far back should I go?
Oh, I just have to tell you, she's the best. But then again, I'm a little prejudiced.
I'm not sure what that means. But let me tell you a little bit about my quote unquote history. In the media department here, I have had 2 different radio shows. One was called Multidimensional Relationships, and the other one was called Relationships and Beyond. And I really enjoyed doing those, but then my life shifted and I haven't been doing them. So for me, coming back and doing podcasts like this is very, very awesome. I also have 100 or so episodes of another podcast that I've done in the past. I didn't do them from video so much, but they are, I believe that one's called Waking Up with Esateys. Yes. So those things, there's a lot of information. I've also done a quadrillion, seemingly, Facebook Lives. And I have really put a lot of energy into sharing what it is that I have learned personally through programs and through videos and audios and different programs that I have done. I also have been doing one-on-one coaching for many, many years. And the one-to-one coaching has taught me so much myself that I have now wisdom that has been personally acquired, but it's also been acquired through vicariously through working with other people, and learned what it is that they thought and what they were going through, and how the things that I suggested worked or perhaps weren't as, workable as would be ideal. So because of that, I have a lot of wisdom that's very laser-like. I can really help people in a way that is straight to the point, so we're not scattered all around. And I've always had an interest in the human condition since I was like really young. I was like the counselor to my mother and to my brother-in-law and to all these other people. And I was actually trained in medicine. I'm a nationally and board certified nurse practitioner. And I took a little break from that, and I had a really serious car accident. It was a lot of years ago, but during that time, I was a year in a wheelchair, and I slept upright in a hospital bed for about 3 months. And I had a lot of time to contemplate what it is that's important in life. And I learned that it wasn't just about the money, which was my main focus before. It was really about who am I, what am I doing here, and what's important in life, because I had so many friends and clients that were extremely wealthy, but they were very unhappy, very, very unhappy. And I started thinking about that and thinking, okay, money is important, but it is not going to be my only focus. And because of that, I started going deeper into what life was really about and the human condition, because we are very fascinating when we start to study ourselves. So during that accident, I had what's called a near-death experience, meaning that I kind of died for a moment or so, and then I came back. And after that is when I really started seeing, feeling, thinking everything from a different viewpoint. And that's when I started getting much more engaged in what's really going on and who am I and what am I doing here. And I started going into alternative medicine, and I worked with Deepak Chopra for about 3 years and was on his board of directors for a while. And I moved from traditional medicine, even though I'm still licensed in traditional medicine. In fact, you can see kind of in the background, there's no way I could get this all together, but we're in our nutritional supplement office because alternative medicine, homeopathy, and direct organ support with the body and connecting with your body intuitively and otherwise is something that I have found to be incredibly helpful. And because of that, it's not my main point of focus, but it fits in beautifully with the things that we really work with. And then I got very engaged in the mindset and the mind-body connection. And I started doing retreats and seminars. And in addition to my coaching, I started doing public speaking. I spoke to about 1,600 people in Africa a little while ago. So there's a lot of different things. Oh, and I've authored a couple of books. I just done a lot of different things because I love life and I love sharing what it is that I learn and I know. And I know there's things that I'm going to learn from you all, because I'm going to ask you to really make comments and interact with us. This is not supposed to be a one-way street. This is an interactive experience. In fact, you're probably going to say this later, but if you'd like to come on what Rafael calls the hot seat and come on with us, we could do some little coaching or just answer a couple of questions. You can always write in and ask questions, because we're going to tell you about that part in a little bit. So that the bottom line is, you can already tell probably, that I love to chat. I love to speak. And as our work evolves, I want to keep you updated about what is happening and what it is that you can do to make your life more awesome than you could ever dream or imagine. Because I can tell you that it is an ongoing process. It's not something that just happens and then goes away. So you want to talk about you?
I want to talk about you. One more thing. One thing that I don't know that you really talked about is, after Esateys' near-death experience, even though I didn't know her at that time, she has basically sees things from a macro point of view, the big picture. And we've been together over 20 years now. I know Esateys. We've been married for 12. It never ceases to amaze me. We've been married for 13 years, and our friend Ginny will attest to that, because she's the only one who ever remembers our anniversary. And the thing about that is, there's not a day that doesn't go by where she'll come out of the bathroom or she'll say something from a point of view, from a bigger picture, that just encapsulates and takes in so much more than is apparent. And that's really the basis of the work that we're doing here. So I just thought I would tell you that, because it's so important to be able to see things from out here rather than in that little tunnel. And so I'll tell you about myself, because I used to live in the tunnel.
But wait. Can I just say it?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, because I was just thinking this, that one of the things that I would love for you to take away today, if you don't hear anything else, hear this. Happiness is a choice. You get to decide what it is that you want in life. Life is happening, but you are going to be the one who decides, with that piece of free will that you have, about how you're going to perceive it. So things are just happening, and what's happening is brought to you in a way that allows you to decide, do I want to be happy, sad, mad, or glad about this? That's an empowerment that we'll talk about throughout our episodes. So you are aware that you become empowered. This work is about becoming empowered and becoming aware and becoming astutely in control of that mind that you have going on here. And so I want to ask you a question, and that is, I know you want to talk. Okay, you talk.
No, it's okay.
I know I get off on the thing.
We actually have an outline here, which we actually stopped looking at about 3 minutes into the program, but that's okay.
All right, you go. Tell them about you.
Okay. Well, I was saying before I was circumvented here that I am the kind of person who used to see things from a very narrow tunnel. I'm from New York, in case you haven't recognized my accent. I've been living out west for over 20 years, and I still have the accent. And I'm a recovering lawyer. For 8 years, I was a tax lawyer. I had a real estate business in New York. And then I had my own very successful decorative hardware business for 20 years. And I had everything. I had money. I had all those things. And I wasn't happy. And I met Esateys through a confluence of events. My life changed. And we became friends first. Then we became business partners, and then we became a couple. And I just want to say that we're going to be talking about extraordinary possibilities. And that, for me, was one of them that happened in my life. But suffice it to say, I'm a left brainer. All right. I'm really good with numbers. As I said, I'm a lawyer. I was a tax lawyer, for goodness sake. So if anybody knows of anything that's more left brain than that, you should let me know. And I've changed so much. I don't practice law anymore. In fact, the last 10 or 12 years, I've been working exclusively with Esateys and doing this work because it's made such a incredible difference for me. And together, we form, I think, a really cool pair that will hopefully, from my perspective, and I'm here to bring the male perspective into all of these conversations, because we know women love to chat, and we know women have certain things that are very different from us men. So by being here, staying with us, listening to the things that we have to say, I hope you're going to get both perspectives, because it's the only way to really get to know yourself. Because you have, I don't really mean to say this so loud, I'll say it quietly, is that us men have a lot of women in us, and us women have a lot of men in them. So that is something that is changing very rapidly.
Well, and that's very true. I mean, we all have a male side, just like women have testosterone and androgens and all different kinds of things that allow us to be balanced, and men have different female hormones as well. So we have some of each. It's just that some are more prevalent than others. So I want to ask you all, why are you here today? Why did you tune in? Why are you listening right this minute? Think about it for a moment, because there's something inside of you that is looking for something to answer, to heal, to shift, to change, to expand, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter what it is. What's awesome is that you're here, because it's no accident that you're here. And it's also no accident that you're ready for the next step in your life, because that's what this work does. It takes you to the next step of your life, whatever that is. So if you stay open and let's just say you hear something that just seems like, man, that's like way over there for me. What if you just said to yourself, what if that was true? Or what if that was a possibility? Because if you live with an open mind and an open level of possibility, then magical things will happen for you, truly magical things. It makes such a difference. So you may be in a relationship.
Or you may want a relationship.
Or you may want a relationship, exactly. It doesn't matter.
And you may have issues with your children, your parents, your boss.
Your puppies.
Don't forget the puppies. We have 4 of them.
We love our puppies. And it can also be about your career, or it could be about the money. And maybe you had a lot of money, but something happened and then you lost your money, and you're not used to living in a place where you're living now. And maybe you have everything. seemingly. You have a relationship, you've got the money, you've got the beautiful home and, all those things that go with it. But you still feel that empty feeling inside. You feel that that heaviness, that emptiness. There's just a missing link, but we don't know what it is. It's that yearning that we have for something that's beyond what we have physically. And
I had that. That was really my experience and how I ended up seeking out on a subconscious level Esateys and how my life changed from there. And to me, it's like I had everything and I still wasn't happy. And back a number of years ago, Peggy Lee did a song called "Is That All There Is?" And that had a big impact on me because I had every material thing, but inside there was something missing. And that's the kind of thing that we're here to explore with you.
And that's a really important thing to recognize, is that no matter how much you know, no matter how much you have, no matter how much experience you have, no matter how little you have, you're still in a place where growth is never ending. Personal awareness and personal development is truly a never-ending experience. So it's important that you have yourself in a place of openness and willingness and possibility, because then your life can become so much more than it currently is, regardless of what place you're in your life. So if you have a willingness and you have a desire to open up to another level, you're going to find that your life is going to be incredibly different as you stay tuned and you continue to work with us. So do you want to talk about the structure of the...
We'll tell them what they can expect.
Mhm.
We have been thinking about doing this podcast for a number of months, and we put a lot of thinking into how we could best serve our listeners. And we came up with a structure that we hope and will really create significant opportunities for you to get exactly what you need from it. The first part of each show that we're going to do, and we're going to do each show, we're going to do a show a week, will be what we call our topic for the week, our teaching, our learning for the week. And we'll spend 15 or 20 minutes talking about that, although the way we talk, we can't really be sure if 15 to 20 minutes will actually make it. And then after that, we're going to do a segment called Ask E. And that's what Esateys was talking about a little earlier. That segment is your opportunity to write in. We don't have the facility right now to take calls because we don't do these lives. We record them and then they're posted. But to send us an email with your questions. We'll have information on the podcast where the podcast is hosted about how to do that. And we want you to ask anything that you would like. And as Esateys said, we're going to have a segment, or part of that segment, the Ask E segment, will be what we call a hot seat, where if you have something going on and you'd like some personal one-on-one coaching or work with Esateys, then that's a great opportunity. And I know from experience that if when I said that, if you like shuddered a little, like, how could I do that? Then that's exactly what would be probably optimal for you, so that you can shed the facade and there's something wrong with me and just get down to finding out who you are and being real. So that's a real important.
Can I interject something here, because this is a really important thing. Whenever you want to hide or you want to back away or you don't want to walk into the fear, then just understand, and this is not good, bad, right, or wrong, but understand that what you're doing is you're guarding the ego. The ego is the part of us that wants to hide and shadow everything it possibly can, because it has a judgment that if you really know who I am, you won't love me. I won't be accepted. People will make fun of me, whatever it is. So be aware that when you feel that resistance, that's the time to walk through. Never, ever, ever, ever let the fear stop you. and it will do its best to do that. And when you do, it is now feeding the ego. So be very, very aware of that. So,
and the last segment that we're going to be doing here is what we call Living in the World of Possibility segment. And in that segment, Esateys will be asking a question. You want to tell them about what the power of questions are? Could be just really briefly, and why we do that.
well, this is the part of the episode, the show, that where I will give you a question to contemplate for the next week until we come back. And if you take this without expecting an answer and without making up an answer, but it just becomes very rhetorical, then what you will find is your mind will be very curious. It kind of perks up and it'll go, well, I can do that. I can figure that out. And it just kind of like, think of it like a jackrabbit. It just runs out into the universe to look for the answer that is the best answer for you. So as an example, and this can go many, many ways, but one example would be...
Why don't you give them one for today for them to think about? We hadn't really planned that, but why not?
I could do that.
I'm putting you on the spot. But
yes,
okay.
You are. Well, before I give them the one for today, I want to give them an example about something, because this might not be happening for everyone, but it's something that came to my mind. And that is, I just had somebody have an experience, that two people actually, that within the last week, one of them had appendicitis, and the other person was in a car accident. So one of the things that I suggested to both of them was to say to themselves repeatedly, what's great about this that I haven't seen yet? What's great about this that I haven't seen yet? And when you send your precious little mind off to come up with an answer for that, then what happens is it takes you away from the idea of, I'm a victim, things didn't work the way I want. How could this happen the day before Christmas? Or whatever the case may be. And it shifts the perspective of what occurred to something that's kind of like, wow, this is very, very cool.
Unlimited possibility.
Yes. And so today, let's talk about, let's ask you to look at the questions. What if I was more loving for the next 7 days than I have ever been in my life? And if loving's, too weird of a word for you, you could say, what if I was more kind than I have ever been in the next 7 days than I've ever been before? Because when you just kind of plant that seed, what happens is you'll notice that people will come in front of you seemingly, and they will be looking for something that they need, which is many times it's just a smile. It's just somebody saying, gosh, your hair looks great today. Or maybe it's somebody that you can walk up to and be playful with and say something like, whoa, it looks like you're carrying, the weight of the world on your shoulders, and maybe they're carrying a big heavy box or something like that. Something that lets them know that they are seen and they're noticed, and that you as an individual really experience them in life. They become really apparent. And when that happens, people start to feel it here. They feel it in their heart, and it increases their own self-love, and the way that they feel about themselves is escalated. You can make a huge difference. And when you start asking yourself these kinds of questions, you will notice that one of these times I'll do a whole session on questions and speak more about that, because questions are much more powerful than statements. Much, much, much more powerful than statements.
So two things about that. Number one, if you have a piece of paper, or you're in a place where you can write it down, to write down those two questions or variation of that, and ask yourself that question at night, every night before you go to bed. That's all you have to do. I mean, it's not serious work, but things will totally change when you do that. And the other piece that I always love to talk about when we talk about questions is, for me, the thing that hooked me on questions and doing these questions was the metaphor of a Google search. Ask a question. When you go to Google, everybody knows about Google. When you go to Google, you'll type something into the search bar, and it goes out into the universe, whatever's out there, cyberland, right? And comes back with millions of possibilities and answers. Well, to me, when we ask that question, our mind, our being goes out into the universe seeking the answer that is absolutely perfect for us at that exact minute. And that is, I mean, when you think about that, it'll change your whole perception about Google. And it's been very profound for me. So we hope you enjoy that. We think that that's going to be the most popular aspect of our show.
Yes. So we have so much in store for you. We have so much excitement, so much growth, so much fun, so much laughter. And we invite you to join us every week. And we also invite you to invite your friends and let other people know about this, because the more of a community we gather up, the more profound questions we'll receive, and the more ideas you will all give me and give us about what it is that you would like for us to speak about, because we're here in service to you. This is really fun doing, and yet we feel you and we want to be with you during these, during these podcasts, during these exchanges. So I'm requesting that you leave a comment below and give us your feedback, give us your questions. We will attend to those for sure, because we're here for you. And also you can email me at esateys@esateys.com. That's ESATEYS @ESATEYS.com. Just my name @myname.com.
So you may have noticed that we named our second segment Ask E, and that's because a lot of people have problems remembering or being able to pronounce it. So we have a solution for that.
Yes.
And her daughter had the best solution.
When my daughter was younger, because nobody seemed to be able to pronounce my name, Esateys, what she said is, just slur out, he's a tease. And when people would say he's a tease, it just kind of moves into Esateys. And it's helpful, and I know what people are trying to say. And I many times will tell people, just call me E for easy. It's easy to remember.
And
so you want to?
I do. And the last thing is, please subscribe. If you liked what you heard, you want to hear more of this, hit the subscribe button. Will show up for you every week. We're not sure exactly which day yet we're going to be publishing, but we'll have that shortly. And we will be up and running. But we wanted to get this first podcast in the can, as they say, so we can do that. And I wanted to leave you with a quote, one of my favorite quotes from Mahatma Gandhi, and that is, be the change that you want to see in the world. Every time I say that, it gives me goose pimples, and it always puts me right back on track. And I invite you just to think about that and share that with others.
Yes, that is very powerful, because that's how the world becomes the world that you love to live in, is by you being that and exempling that to other people. So have a great, glorious, awesome, incredible week. And we will look forward to being with you in a week from now. And until then, make this the most awesome week of your life so far. Go for kindness. What would it take for me to be more kind than I've ever been before? Or what if I was more kind than I have ever been for the next 7 days? Try it. Take care, everyone.
We love you. Take care.
Bye for now.